Hello, and welcome back to the Flying Cat Marketing podcast and video series. And today I have Nick Jordan, who's the CEO of ContentDistribution.com, a content creation distribution agency for B2B and B2C SaaS companies, and helping build massive audiences through SEO and organic search. So thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I've been looking forward to this call all week.
Yeah, same. So Nick and I have been interacting for quite a while now on LinkedIn, and we tried to have this call before the new year, but then both of us ended up being a little bit burnt out, and I'm glad that we were finally able to have this going now.
Much needed rest.
Yes.
Glad we got it in to our busy schedules.
Cool. So today there's a lot of things I want to talk about. And I noticed that you're pretty, you're known now on LinkedIn, right, for being this fat graphs guy, because you just grow traffic and you got the graph here. So that's pretty cool. I want to know a little bit, well, why don't we go back in time? Because I guess your history is, you were telling me before we got on the call, that you come from Seattle. So you had quite a bit of access, right, to these kind of tech companies and experimenting with them. And I've learned that you worked at 2 failed startups. So I'd be interested in knowing what happened and what you learned from those experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm very fortunate to be born in Seattle and not anywhere else. Because I think if I was born in like Alabama, I'm pretty sure I would work at a gas station. Seattle is incredible in terms of the amount of opportunities it gives, average people to come into tech. My friends with geology degrees are now doing like business development at Microsoft and making, tons of money. And it's just very easy to get in. And so I was fortunate there. I started 2 failed startups. The details I think aren't super important, but what I've learned is that, entrepreneurship and kind of your career is it's measured in decades. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And when I went into these projects, I said, whether I'm successful or not, I'm going to meet the people and learn the skills to do something even bigger next. And so my first startup, I recruited a CTO from Reddit. I raised a small round, loan from my family. We launched the product. Absolutely no one used it. We pivoted. We created a B2B product. We cold called our way to 6,000 in monthly recurring revenue before the company imploded. And if you look at my career, I think, it looks like a guy who's just been failing upwards again and again and again.
It's interesting because I thought, so actually you started these startups, you founded them, and now you're on ClusterAI. Is that your third one?
Yeah. There was a gap where I was an employee of another startup. And after my second startup failed, I joined this other company because I needed to make money. And we ended up growing from 8 people to 200 people in 4 years without raising any money. By just making handfuls of cash. And that experience allowed me to do things that a 26-year-old would never be allowed to do. And so I was, driving in strategic partnerships with AT&T and Rackspace and Sprint and Comcast and Time Warner Cable and their peers across the world. I think one of the most important things I've done as an entrepreneur is work for someone else. To see how good work gets done by people at the peak of their career who are very driven and talented.
But to learn that, how did you know that you're working with people who are doing their work well? How do you find that kind of experience?
It's completely dependent on the company's growth, and it's very hard to evaluate how quickly the company is going to grow, especially when it's less than 10 people. Yeah. I got very lucky. If the company didn't grow and we grew from like 8 people to 20 people in 4 years, I wouldn't have accumulated that same set of experience because the company wouldn't have demanded me to learn these new things.
So tell me a little bit about your 2 failed startups. You have Success With Me and Lead Adva, right?
So I dropped out of college and I moved to Brazil. And one night, me and my roommate were talking, and I was like, "Hey, bro, what should I wear to this new club we've never been to?" And he's like, "I don't know, dude. Ask the internet." And I looked, and there's no good way to ask the internet which outfit should I wear. And I got like super hooked and passionate about like solving this problem. And so I like set out, and I was like, no one's, I can either do this or I can get a job at a restaurant, because that's what my work history is. I'm a college dropout, so why don't I try this thing? And this was before smartphones were ubiquitous. YouTube barely existed when we launched. And so you had to, use your old camera, find your proprietary plug that wasn't USB, it was something else, and, get your parents to take the photos for you.
Okay, so this was when, back in like 2005 or something?
It was around there.
Yeah. Okay, so what lessons did you learn from that?
Just it's all about positive momentum. It doesn't matter if the thing that I'm currently working on is successful or not. Like I'm gonna meet the people and learn the skills to do something even bigger next. And I think that's really the key takeaway. People get hyper focused on any particular business that they're working in, and most people aren't Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, where they started at 19 into the business that they're in for life. Mm-hmm. The ClickFunnels guy started 12 businesses before ClickFunnels.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of the way the most big successful entrepreneurs have a ton of failures behind them, because that's what they need in order to be able to know how to do things better, right?
Yeah. And it's been a long game. I feel like, I've been, grinding for the last 13 years. And I feel like all this kind of skills I've learned along the way are finally coming together to build something cool.
So now when did you buy contentdistribution.com?
I bought it, I don't know, sometime in 2019, I think, like June or something.
And you were saying that before that you were working in business development. I mean, how did you get into SEO?
So the company that grew from 8 to 200, I burned out, and I took a 6-month break. And one of my friends called me up. He ran an SEO company. He's like, "Nick, we rank #1 for Seattle SEO. That means we're good at what we do. We just need someone to like convince people to buy our services for a lot of money." And I knew I wanted to transition into marketing, because sales doesn't allow me to live the kind of lifestyle that I want to live, which is, I don't want to live on time zone. I don't want to live on the West Coast. And if you're in sales, you're attached to the time zone that you're selling into. Your value ceases to exist as soon as you log off for the day and you go to sleep. You can't. But marketers, they can live anywhere. It's all asynchronous. The campaigns work while they're sleeping. And so I took my friend up on the offer to come sell for him, because I knew that I was going to learn how to do SEO as a part of selling it successfully.
So now you have, I guess you have pretty good tips there, because you're pretty opinionated about how Google works, and the fact that you don't actually need backlinks or technical SEO. So that's a very controversial opinion.
It's bold, yeah.
It's bold. Is that just like a branding positioning to be the guy who doesn't need backlinks? Or tell me like really how you...
No, it all kind of happened by accident, and I'm very fortunate that SEO doesn't require these things, because I don't know how to do any of those things. I don't know how to do technical stuff. I don't know how to build backlinks. So I know that the best way to learn, you can't sell SEO without knowing how to actually do it. And so I knew that I needed to learn how. The best way to do it is by doing. So I grew our company blog from 0 to 100,000 organics a month in 13 months. And we got like, there's some wins, there's some losses, but overall I learned a lot. It was very formative for me. When I left, I built another site, Doggypedia, that grew from 0 to about 116,000 visitors a month in about the same time period. And, I started to draw these conclusions that, hey, like I got both these wins and I didn't really build any backlinks. and I didn't like know anything technical. And I think it's because of how much content I published and how quickly I published it. And I think it's because I focused on being higher quality than any other page Google could show. And so I developed this model to explain my success. You know, there's no other reason to explain why I'm outranking as a DR9 site, DR70 sites with a ton of backlinks to the page that I'm ranking above, unless it was something else. And you know, now when I say it, you're gonna go, oh, duh. But you know, Google, the world's most innovative big data company that owns Chrome, they own Android, and they own Google Analytics. It would be a huge oversight if they weren't using that data to determine which page adds more value to a user than another page.
Yeah. So
there's no better way to measure.
But from what you just told me, it sounds like you're not saying quality or quantity, but quality and quantity.
Yeah.
Like put as much out there as possible, but keep it the highest quality. Like, how is that sustainable? What do you do for that?
That took me the last 18 months to learn. Our team's grown from 1 person to 25 people just in 2020. And
those are just
it's because it works.
Writers?
Yeah. So, you know, it's very tough. It's very tough. It's quality and quantity. And what I've seen is that if you're publishing just quality, but you're not publishing very much, then your impact is limited. And it really does, you know, the number one lever you can pull is how quickly you publish. And, you know, we started off with freelancers and other content agencies because we were an SEO agency to begin with, not a content agency. But you can't control the level of content quality that you need. You can't give feedback. They're unwilling to learn. Mm-hmm. And so we brought it all in-house. And I think the key is our editing team. They can take any writer, you know, even if they don't have writing experience, and whip them into shape. And so the editing team, it's a lot easier for them to let things slide. Their job's way easier if they let things slide. So that's what most editing teams will do. But you want to find people with masters. I found, you know, people living in Serbia who have master's degrees in English, who've been speaking English their whole lives, who were previously English teachers. And I think that communicates a certain passion for content quality. And they've kept everything strong as we've grown.
And what kind of background do you find these editors perform best? I mean, what background do they come from, the ones that perform the best? Is it more journalistic or is it also marketing?
You know, from the editing perspective, there's only one person of our six or seven editors that has a journalistic background. The rest were English teachers. You know, a lot of them, this is their first content job.
Okay. So how many pieces, because right now you're talking about the team for your agency, for the work that people hire you to do?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so you have these 5 editors that cover all of the content that you guys create for your clients.
Yeah, so today we're at about 400 pages a month of content.
Wow.
And we're going to be scaling up to about 1,000 pages a month over the next quarter.
So how many pieces does, that's like mind blowing. I'm just trying to wrap my brain around the logistics of this. And just because
it's pretty incredible.
Yeah. I see how it can get done, but in my mind, I feel like quality would suffer from that. So you're maintaining this high level, and I'm interested in what this process looks like.
Yeah, you know, our whole strategy is predicated on being higher quality than any other page Google could show. And so if we're just pushing content that isn't better, then I don't think we'll be successful. I think we won't rank as well as sites that better service the user. And so we've had to do it. And I think the other part of it is if we were publishing this velocity without the quality, then that would make us a content mill. And that like a content sweatshop, and that I wouldn't feel very proud about, coming on the podcast to talk about. It's all very process oriented. Like we have, probably at this point, 350 knowledge base articles that cover everyone's role and every aspect of it. And so things are, the expectations are written down and they're clear, and people can be held accountable to them because we literally give a step-by-step for every piece of the content production pipeline.
Okay. And that's, and then in order to do this, one of the ways that you're able to do all this research so quickly is using your own tool, right? ClusterAI.
Yeah, ClusterAI. So I think this is one of the major components of our agency's success. So I didn't mention this earlier, but our agency's grown 4 projects from 0 to 100,000 organics a month. The biggest is at 0 to 530,000, or about 500,000 organics a month in month 17. And what ClusterAI does is basically automates keyword research. You dump in, let's say, 20,000 keywords covering every single ways that your target audience persona might search. And then ClusterAI will determine which keywords can rank together. Mm-hmm. And what you'll end up with is a list of pages with the main keyword, every variation of the main keyword, and the total search volume that page can capture. And this, we can do a year's content calendar in about 10 minutes. I can delegate it to people with no SEO experience. The results are consistent from person to person. It doesn't take a lot of training or QA. And I think without it, we would need a whole keyword research department to do 400 pages of keyword research per month.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think, it's pretty crazy that it's 2021 now and people are still doing manual keyword research. There's been a lot of improvement in terms of content optimization like Surfer and Pop and Phrase and Copy Scope, but people are still doing it manually. And I think over the next year or two, we'll see a big shift once I educate the market on how much manual keyword research sucks.
But do you come from a tech background? How did you guys start developing ClusterAI?
So actually, the agency that I learned SEO at, they built it and they didn't want to commercialize it. And so when I left, I decided to build it. And
the rest is history.
And the rest is history. And I think, I think this is one of those, if I'm successful or not, I'm going to meet the people and learn the skills to do something even bigger next. Mm-hmm. The truth is that keyword research doesn't need to be done all the time for most companies. For most companies, for direct brands, it's one and done. For agencies, most agencies don't do that much keyword research anyways. Especially if you can create a year-long a year-long content calendar in 1 or 2 months. And so the churn rate's very high. People love the product, but they don't need to pay for keyword research in month 10 when they did it in month 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, we've learned how to create and launch a product. We have almost 900 free trials, 100 paid subscriptions, and all of this learning, and the team that we've built that executed this is going to execute even bigger for the next set of products that we build.
So is that part of your, I know that you have a goal for 2021 to generate 50% of your revenue from internal projects. Is that from ClusterAI?
ClusterAI is going to be a piece. So, I think that our growth from 1 to 25 people has given us unique thought leadership into how to build a remote company.
Yeah.
I'm very proud of the culture that we've built and, the lack of stress that everyone's experienced in that growth, because it has been very fast. And we think that a lot of the stuff that we've done is interesting for other people. And so we're going to start building products for remote teams.
Okay. What kind of stuff?
So there's 2 products we're launching first. The first is going to bring in Google Analytics data into Slack. So I check Google Analytics every single day for all of the projects that I care about. My SEO director does that too. No one else on the team does. There's 25 people on the content team who are trying to drive a good SEO outcome. And there's only 2 people in the company checking the Google Analytics data.
Okay.
So we're going to build an app that pushes the Google Analytics data into Slack so we can bring more visibility into the numbers to everybody on the team.
And how come, so actually are you and your SEO director the only kind of strategists for the agency side?
From an SEO perspective, yeah. And he came on board 2 months ago.
And how do you guys, and so you have the, sorry, I'm just trying to understand the structure.
Yeah, for sure.
SEO director who says, these are the keywords. And then you have a process that it just goes through, and the editor, and then you have the writers write it and it goes out. Because how are you finding to edit 400 to 1,000 pieces a month?
Okay, you want to see how it's made? You want to see the,
yeah.
I can walk you through it. Okay, cool. Right.
Are you going to share your screen?
Yeah, I'm going to share my screen.
Wait, I have to let you share. So unfortunately, you're going to have to be, this is also, people are listening to this as well without video. So you have to be very descriptive.
Okay. All right, we're going to do it. All right, so we're going to start with the keyword research, and then we'll kind of walk through the entire, until it gets to the writers.
Awesome.
So one of my colleagues was saying Ahrefs is pretty slow today. Let's see. Okay, so what's some keywords that that are interesting for your audience?
Vacation rental marketing.
Okay.
Or vacation rentals. Let's just go broad, even though that's 2 different audience potentially.
All right. So the biggest problem with keyword research is that, we've typed in these very broad match keywords, vacation rental, and now we have in vacation rentals, and now we have 254,000 variations that we could target. And when you ask an SEO, okay, cool, how much content do we need to build to be everywhere our audience is searching for vacation rentals? They go, I don't know. They got no freaking clue. It's just done manually. And what people end up doing is they start grouping keywords. Can Key West vacation rentals, is that the same page as Florida vacation rentals, or should I have 2 pages? Is vacation homes rentals, can that rank on the same page as vacation rentals by owner? Or are these separate pages? And people end up making decisions from the gut based off of, how closely the keywords are together and whatever intuition. But the thing is that it's very easy to be wrong. I'm going to give you a really good example. LinkedIn profile examples, LinkedIn headline examples. Now, if I'm a writer in SEO, I think that these 2 keywords are variations of the same article on how to grow your business with LinkedIn. It's about your profile and optimizing it. But when you look at both keywords, you're going to see that the search results that Google's showing is 100% specific for one or the other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's about intent really here.
Yeah. And so search intent can be very difficult to choose from the gut. And so what ClusterAI does is when there's 3 pages that rank for both keywords, it groups those keywords together. Okay.
Yeah, that's fairly simple.
Yeah, that's really simple. So you end up exporting these 25,000 keywords. This is where your work is done. You export the 25,000 keywords, and then you import them into ClusterAI, and then you go crack a beer and high five your colleagues because you're done with keyword research. So, one second.
For those
loading on.
Enjoy the relaxing sound of Crickets.
Can you still hear the crickets?
Yeah, but it's nice. It makes me feel like I'm camping.
Uh,
Relaxing in the
no, I'm trying to be a serious businessman over here with these crickets in the background. Okay, cool. So basically this is like my import history, and let's go look at like lease agreements. So we're going to download this, and similarly to vacation rentals, the person who received this deliverable was looking at lease agreements. And so, if you're writing about lease agreements, there's not just one lease agreements page of content you need to write. There's actually a lot of types of agreements. This one isn't very good because this one's about all types of agreements. SaaS metrics. That one's relevant to the marketing audience.
Yeah.
So when people think SEO, they think, hey, I'm going to publish a blog on SaaS metrics and I'm going to rank for that and I'm going to get traffic. But what they're not thinking about is all the other ways that people are searching for SaaS metrics. So all I did was export SaaS metrics out of Ahrefs, 3,000 keywords, import them into ClusterAI. It took me about 30 seconds. And now I have the main keyword, I have the variation, and I have the total search volume that this page is able to address. And every keyword variation has at least 3 results in common with the main keyword. Because if 3 other people rank for both keywords with one page, you can too. And so if you're Nathan Laka, you might want 30 articles on SaaS metrics instead of just 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so not only does it help you do your keyword research, but it helps you like plan and gives you a bird's eye view on what the opportunity looks like for the audience persona that you're targeting.
Yeah. Okay, so this is quite brilliant because there just now in a few minutes, we have topics that I could write for the entire quarter or longer, unless you're, publishing 400 per month like you do.
Yeah. 30 will last, some companies 2 years. Some companies. And to be perfectly transparent, I'm going to show you what happens next because the next part is going to blow your mind. Okay. But to be perfectly transparent, I work with companies that aren't much less ambitious. And we publish, a couple page of content per month, and the outcomes show. There's a very clear divide between the projects that I work on, and it's not, the number one thing in common isn't the industry or the DR or like how big they are. It's 100% how often are they publishing.
Okay.
And even small guys that have published more will have better outcomes than the big guys who publish less.
That's interesting because that's a different perspective and experience that a lot of other marketers have had. I mean, there's such a spectrum between you need to publish very frequently, and I actually just recorded an episode of the Flying Cat podcast a few hours ago. I'm batching them. And we were talking about a project that they did that they spent months doing one piece. And it had huge success. It got 2,000 backlinks, again, saying the backlinks, 2,000 organic backlinks without even link building, without doing that.
Man, I can't wait to hear that one.
Oh yeah, it's a very interesting project. They actually found the woman who does the voice of Siri. Did a whole thing about her. I'll send that to you when it's published.
That's fantastic.
So there's just so many different approaches to this, and I'm enjoying both of them, and I find myself being attracted to both ways of doing content.
I'm envious of your other podcast guests. I wish I could get people to pay me a lot of money for one blog post at a time.
Yeah, but I guess it's not just so much SEO focused, keyword focused, as it is
very strategic and
very interactive media, whole experience kind of piece of content.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So here's what happens next. So, how do you get all this keyword research to the people who are going to do stuff with it? So we're simply going to copy and paste this into Airtable. Airtable is pretty cool. If you haven't used it, it's like Google Sheets on steroids. And we're going to copy and paste it like this. Okay, cool. So I put this in, shouldn't have done that. But now we have, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, if you just describe what we're seeing for people who can't see, it's just on one column. We have the primary keywords, then we have all the volume, and then we have like all the variations that go with it.
Yep, we're looking at my CMS right now and how I manage 1,000, soon to be 1,000 pages a month of content. So I take it from the Excel file with the main keyword, the volume, and the variations, and I put it into the CMS, which looks like Google Sheets. And there, what happens next is I assign a project. And once I assign the project, I have automation set up that automatically creates the Google Doc with the main keyword and all of the variations in it, along with information that the writers need.
Okay.
So check this out. We'll go to one of these random articles here. So, it has about the client. It has a table that the writers need to submit to confirm that they met our writing requirements. It has all of the keyword variations that the writers need to use in their content in H2s. And for each kind of bucket of content, we'll create a content series template. So if we're targeting, for example, how to get refunds, and we're publishing 500 articles on refunds from Steam and Visa or whatever, we'll do a bunch of research up front to set a minimum quality standard. Okay. And that'll also be included.
Do that before you do the keyword research? No.
After the keyword research, but before it gets assigned to the writers.
Yeah, okay. This is an impressive process, and I see now how this can be more scalable than what I imagined.
Yeah.
And then those who are responsible for the quality are the editors and writers together as a team.
Yep. And then, it's all assigned, it's all managed via Airtable. So, we know each writer, we know the status. There's like 15 different statuses. Anyone at any time can log in and view the status of any page of content. We can go into the writer profile and we can see what else they're working on, what their status is, and all the other data we've collected about the writers. And then we track our action items in Airtable too. Okay. So every action item is a record. And as you move the status of things, it switches groups. So if I move this to ready for QA, now it's tracked under the ready for QA.
I haven't tried using Airtable before. I'm in currently, which I think is sort of similar, but maybe closer to Trello or Asana. Mm-hmm. How did you, how long have you been using Airtable with content distribution?
I was using Google Sheets originally, and my friend was like, yo, check out Airtable. And then I just went crazy with it.
Cool. Well, this has been enlightening. And I actually have seen that the brief document, because you send it out in one of your emails, I think. Mm-hmm. So I've tried to, I've changed it up a little bit because I have used some elements from it in my own briefs because I did like it.
Cool.
Cool. And I have tried ClusterAI, and I have to say it's a pretty cool tool.
Thank you so much. That's so kind of you to say.
Well, thank you so much, Nick, for your time today and for spending some time with me and sharing your experiences and insights. It's been enlightening.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to listening to myself, whenever you publish it.
Where's the best place for, I know you guys have a Facebook group and you're very active on LinkedIn, but where should people connect with you?
Facebook, Nick from Seattle, LinkedIn, Nick from Seattle, Instagram, Nick from Seattle.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks so much. And
thank you so much.
I hope you have a great day. And guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please do like it, share it with your friends and colleagues, and say hi to Nick, connect with him. And thanks for listening. Goodbye.